Most people walked past him without a second glance. A scruffy, unwanted dog, marked for euthanasia, days away from disappearing forever. But one girl saw something no one else did. And what happened next? It's beyond incredible. Imagine being given an expiration date, simply because no one wanted you. That was the harsh reality for this dog. A shelter reject, labeled too old, too aggressive, too much trouble. He had spent weeks staring at the cold walls of a cage, waiting for anyone. But no one came, until one day, a girl showed up, and instead of looking away, she did something that changed his life forever. This is a story about second chances, about how a single act of kindness can turn despair into something extraordinary. Stay with me till the end. You won't believe what this dog became. Max had never known what it felt like to be special, to be wanted. From the very start, life had been unfair to him. He wasn't born into a loving home, surrounded by warmth and safety. No, his earliest memories were of hunger, of cold nights, of searching for food in places where people shooed him away. If he had once belonged to someone, they had abandoned him long ago. Maybe he had been a puppy that grew too big, too fast. Maybe he had once been playful, full of energy, only to learn that humans don't always keep their promises. He didn't know what he had done wrong. He only knew that one day he was left behind, and after that, life became a fight for survival. He wandered the streets, his ribs pressing against his thin, dirty coat. He learned to stay away from people who threw things at him, from cars that sped past without slowing down. He had no name, no home, and no future. Until one day, someone picked him up, but it wasn't out of kindness. A man grabbed him roughly, stuffing him into a metal cage in the back of a truck. Max didn't understand. He didn't know what was happening. The ride was long, bumpy. The air smelled of fear. He wasn't the only one in the truck. There were other dogs, all trapped, all confused. When the doors opened, Max saw bright lights, cold floors, and rows of cages stacked on top of each other. This was the shelter, a place that was supposed to be a second chance. But for Max, it was just another prison. Shelters are meant to save lives, but they can only do so much. Every day, more animals come and then get adopted. Puppies, they get taken fast. People love tiny, fluffy bundles of joy. Friendly, tail-wagging dogs with big smiles, they stand a chance. But dogs like Max, older, scarred, weary, they are ignored. Max quickly realized that no one was coming for him. At first, he had hope. When people walked by his cage, he would lift his head, his tired eyes searching for kindness. But time after time, they just walked past. Some paused, reading the little card on his cage. Their eyes would flicker with hesitation, then move on. Too old, not good with kids, unfriendly. Those were the words that defined him, words that sealed his fate. Max stopped trying after that. What was the point? He curled up in the corner of his small kennel, staring at the cold, gray floor. He stopped barking, stopped making eye contact, stopped hoping. He wasn't sick, he wasn't violent, he just existed, and that wasn't enough. Most people don't realize it, but shelters have a hidden clock. Dogs only have so much time. Some shelters try to keep them as long as possible, but when space runs out, tough choices have to be made. And Max, his time was running out. He had been there for weeks. No adoption applications, no interest, no second chances. One evening, the shelter staff did what they had to do. They made the list. A list no one wants to be on. A list that means one thing. This is the end of the line. Max's name was written down. A staff member sighed, looking at him through the bars. Poor guy, she muttered under her breath. Guess he's just one of the unlucky ones. They scheduled his euthanasia for the following Monday. No one would notice. No one would ask where he went. He would just disappear. Something changes when a dog senses the end. Max wasn't dumb. He didn't know what euthanasia meant, but he felt it. He saw how the workers stopped looking at him with hope, how they no longer talked about adoption, and he saw dogs leave, not in the way the lucky ones did, wagging their tails, leaving with new families. No, these dogs were led through the back doors, and they never returned. Max's food portions got smaller. His cage wasn't cleaned as often. It was as if he had already faded into the background. He spent his last weekend alone. The barking of other dogs filled the air, but it felt distant, like he was already somewhere else. Then Monday came. Early that morning, a worker unlocked his cage. Max didn't even react. He had given up fighting long ago. She clipped a leash onto his collar and gave a small sigh. "Come on, buddy," she said softly. "Let's go." He followed without resistance. The walk down the hallway was long, too long. He passed other kennels, other dogs watching him with wide, unknowing eyes. Some barked, Some whimpered. Max didn't make a sound. The door at the end of the hall opened. A cold, sterile room. A metal table. A few workers preparing for the procedure. This was it. This was the end. And then, a voice. Wait! The door slammed open, and everything stopped. A girl stood there, breathless, eyes wide with urgency. She was young, maybe in her early 20s. She wasn't a shelter worker. She wasn't dressed in scrubs. She was just someone who didn't belong here. Don't do it, she said, her voice shaking. I'll take him. For the first time in weeks, Max looked up, and in that moment, everything changed. Lily had no idea what she was getting herself into. She had always loved animals. Ever since she was a child, she'd felt a pull toward the ones no one else noticed. The stray cats hiding under cars, the birds with broken wings, the old dogs left behind at shelters. But Max was different. When she first saw him in that kennel, something inside her told her to stop, to look closer. He wasn't barking. He wasn't trying to get her attention like the others. He just lay there, as if the world had already decided he wasn't worth saving. That look in his eyes, it was something she couldn't walk away from. When their eyes met, it wasn't just a glance. It was a connection, a quiet plea from a dog who had lost all hope, and Lily wasn't about to let him disappear. Adopting Max wasn't easy. When Lily stood at the front desk and said, "I want to adopt him," she didn't expect the resistance. The staff exchanged looks. One of them hesitated before speaking. "Are you sure?" Lily frowned. "Why wouldn't I be?" Another worker sighed. "Because it's him. He's not like the others." They slid a file across the counter. Lily picked it up, flipping through the pages. Bite history. One minor incident, but no details. Unadoptable, due to behavioral concerns. Aggressive tendencies, but no specifics. Lily's heart pounded as she looked back at Max's kennel. He was still curled up, staring at the floor. Aggressive. That wasn't what she saw. She looked back at the worker. "Who wrote this?" They hesitated again. "It's just what we were told." Lily clenched her jaw. She wasn't the type to back down easily. "And who actually spent time with him?" Silence. Finally, a younger worker spoke up. "No one really. He doesn't do well with meet and greets. People just pass him by." That was all Lily needed to hear. She pulled out her wallet. "Tell me what I need to do." Max didn't react when they clipped the leash onto his collar. He didn't fight. He didn't struggle. He just followed silently as Lily led him out of the shelter. As she opened the door to her car, he hesitated. For a split second, he looked up at her, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Lily knelt down, her voice soft. "It's okay, buddy. You're coming home." He stepped inside. The drive was quiet. No whining, no excitement. Max simply curled up in the back seat, staring out the window as if waiting for something bad to happen. Lily glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "What happened to you?" She didn't have the answer yet, but she was going to find out. Bringing Max home felt surreal. Lily had set up everything in advance. A soft bed, a bowl of fresh water, even a few toys. But Max didn't care. As soon as she unhooked the leash, he walked to the farthest corner of the living room and sat down. Not exploring, not sniffing around, just sitting. Lily let out a slow breath. "Okay, we'll take this one step at a time." She placed a bowl of food a few feet away and sat down on the floor, giving him space. No pressure, no expectations. An hour passed, then two. Max didn't move. He didn't eat. He didn't drink. He barely even blinked. It was like he didn't know what to do in a home. Lily swallowed hard. This was worse than she thought. The next few days were slow. Max wouldn't take treats from her hand. He flinched if she moved too quickly. He slept in the corner, never using the bed she bought him. But Lily was patient. She didn't try to force him to play. She didn't overwhelm him with affection. Instead, she simply existed in his space. She read on the couch while he lay in the corner. She worked on her laptop while he dozed off nearby. Little by little, the distance between them began to shrink. Then, on the fourth night, something changed. It was past midnight. The house was quiet. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, with a blanket draped over her shoulders. And then, she felt something. A soft, warm pressure against her foot. She stirred awake, blinking groggily. And when she looked down, her breath caught Max. For the first time, he wasn't in the corner. He had moved closer. Close enough that his paw was barely touching her foot. It wasn't much. It wasn't a grand gesture. But to Lily, it meant everything. Days turned into weeks. Max was still quiet, still cautious, but he had stopped hiding. And little by little, Lily started to learn his story. His body told part of it. Old scars, a missing patch of fur near his ear, signs of neglect, maybe even abuse. One day, Lily took him to the vet for a checkup. When the vet scanned his microchip, the truth unraveled. Max had an owner once, a backyard breeder. He had been used for one purpose, breeding, and when he was no longer useful, they dumped him. Lily felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. No wonder he didn't trust people, but she wasn't going to let his past define his future. Lily never forced Max to love her. She simply showed up, and one day, he finally understood. It was a rainy afternoon. Thunder rumbled outside. Lily was sitting on the floor, scrolling through her phone, when she felt a weight press against her side. She turned, and there he was. Max had leaned against her, his head resting against her leg. Voluntarily, Lily swallowed the lump in her throat. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and placed a hand on his back, and for the first time, he didn't pull away. A slow, deep sigh escaped his body. It was the sound of letting go. That was the moment Lily knew he had finally found his home. Bringing Max home was just the first step. The real challenge, getting him to believe he was safe. For the first few days, he barely moved from his corner. He flinched at sudden noises, the hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the floorboards, even the distant sound of a car passing outside. Eating was another battle. Lily noticed he wouldn't touch his food unless she sat beside him, close enough for him to feel her presence. It broke her heart. She didn't know if it was out of fear, anxiety, or something else entirely, but it was clear Max had never known comfort. Still, Lily refused to give up. She sat with him, day after day, letting him set the pace. And then, one night, something changed. It was late. The house was quiet, the only sound coming from the soft ticking of the clock. Lily was on the couch, absent-mindedly flipping through a book, when she felt it, a warm, heavy weight against her leg. She froze. Slowly, she looked down. Max had placed his head on her knee. His deep, tired eyes met hers. Not with fear, not with hesitation, but with something different. Trust. It was small. It was quiet. But to Lily, it was everything. She held her breath, careful not to move too quickly. Then, gently, she placed her hand on his head. Max didn't pull away. Instead, he let out a long, deep sigh, the kind that comes when someone finally feels safe. For the first time since she had brought him home, Lily allowed herself to hope. Days passed, then weeks. Max was still cautious, still learning, but something inside him had shifted. He had started following Lily around the house, not too close, but never too far. He wagged his tail, just a little, when she came home, and then came the park trip. It had become part of their daily routine. A quiet afternoon walk through the neighborhood, past the little pond, down the trail where joggers and dog walkers passed by. Max still wasn't completely comfortable around strangers. If someone reached out to pet him, he'd stiffen, sometimes stepping behind Lily for reassurance. But that day was different. Lily noticed it first, the way his ears perked up, his body suddenly alert. "Max," she murmured. Before she could react, he bolted. Panic hit Lily, like a punch to the chest. Was he running away? She took off after him, heart hammering, dread crawling up her spine. She had worked so hard. He had come so far. What if? And then she saw it. A little girl, no more than 5 or 6, was about to step onto the road, completely unaware. Lily barely had time to process what was happening before Max reached her. A car was speeding down the street. It was too fast, too close. Lily screamed, but Max was faster. In an instant, he barked, loud, sharp, urgent. The little girl froze, just as the car whooshed past, missing her by mere inches. Everything felt frozen in time. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then chaos. The little girl's mother ran over, breathless, face pale, as she scooped her daughter into her arms. Pedestrians rushed toward them, gasping, talking over each other, realizing what had just happened. Lily was still frozen, her heart pounding, her hands trembling. Then she saw Max. He wasn't running. He wasn't panicking. He was standing protectively in front of the little girl, his body tense, his eyes locked on her, watching, making sure she was okay. Lily felt a lump rise in her throat. The mother turned, her eyes glistening with tears. She looked at Max, then at Lily. "That dog just saved my daughter's life." Max had spent his life being overlooked, labeled unwanted, called unadoptable. But in that moment, he had found his purpose. It wasn't about being a perfect pet. It wasn't about being the kind of dog people fawned over at shelters. It was about something deeper. He had saved a life because he understood what it meant to feel helpless, because he knew what it was like to need someone, to have no one. And now, he had become the protector he had always needed. People were talking. The news spread fast. How a once-abandoned shelter dog had become a hero. The local news picked up the story. Photos of Max standing bravely beside the little girl made rounds on social media. Comments flooded in. "This dog deserved the world. Who would have ever thought a problem dog would turn out to be a lifesaver? Proof that every animal deserves a chance. But for Lily, the real reward wasn't the attention. It was the moment she looked at Max that night, curled up beside her, his eyes no longer tired, no longer lost. For the first time, he wasn't waiting for something bad to happen. For the first time, he knew he was finally home. Max had been just another shelter dog, just another unadoptable case, just another name on a list, waiting for an ending that no one would remember. But fate had different plans. He wasn't just saved, he saved. That one act of bravery, that single moment of instinct, courage, and selflessness changed everything. Word spread like wildfire. It started small, neighbors talking, families sharing the story of the sheltered dog who had saved a little girl. Then came the local newspaper. A reporter reached out, eager to meet Lily and Max. The article featured a heartwarming photo of Max, his deep brown eyes full of something new, pride. And then, the headlines exploded. Unwanted shelter dog becomes a hero. From abandoned to loved, Max, the dog who saved a life. They called him aggressive, but he proved everyone wrong. It wasn't just the media. People everywhere, strangers who had never met Max, were sharing his story. The shelter that had nearly euthanized him. They took notice. They, too, started sharing his story. This time, not as another lost cause, but as a reminder that every animal deserves a second chance. Volunteers posted before and after pictures. One photo showed Max in the shelter, curled up, head down, his cage marked unadoptable. Beside it, a picture of him standing tall next to Lily, his coat shining, his tail mid-wag, the little girl he saved hugging his side. The response was overwhelming. People started adopting. Dogs who had been sitting in shelters for months, dogs just like Max, were getting second chances because his story had changed minds. Lily saw it happen before her eyes. Max, the dog who had once flinched at a soft voice, now leaned into every touch. The same Max who had once refused to eat now sat beside Lily during dinner, waiting patiently for his share. The dog who had spent his whole life expecting the worst, now he wagged his tail. One night, Lily sat with him on the couch, running her fingers through his fur. She looked at him, really looked at him, and he looked back, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with trust. "You proved them all wrong, didn't you?" she whispered, scratching behind his ears. His tail thumped against the couch. "They said you weren't worth saving," she murmured. She thought back to that day at the shelter, the way he had been written off as a lost cause. "But look at you now." Max blinked slowly, that quiet, knowing expression on his face. And then, for the first time since she had brought him home, he rested his head in her lap and wagged his tail. Max had spent his life being overlooked, labeled unwanted, called unadoptable. But in the end, he had proven one simple truth. Every life matters. Some dogs don't show their true selves in shelters. Some animals just need time. Some creatures, just like people, need someone who won't give up on them. Because with patience, kindness, and a little bit of faith, even the most broken souls can heal. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe for more incredible animal rescues. You won't want to miss what's coming next.